Me sinto.
Me vejo.
Me formo.
Existo.
Me sinto.
Me vejo.
Me formo.
Existo.
Me sinto. Me vejo. Me formo.
Existo.
Me sinto, me vejo, me formo, existo. Agora e por mais 30 anos, e 30 anos depois disso.
Me apresento e me represento como arte, carne, corpo e movimento. Me sinto.
Me vejo.
Me formo. De todas as formas, existo.
Estamos aqui em mais um debate do Mix Lab SPCine, dentro da edição especial de 30 anos do Festival Mix Brasil. Bem, a gente vai ter uma convidada bem especial, vinda diretamente da França, Aurore Fabulat. Ela vai falar sobre várias obras imersivas e o tema em comum, Tornando virtual queer. Bem, agora a gente passa aqui para conversar com ela um pouco e, antes disso, também fazer uma introdução só falando sobre a Fabulat, que é a companhia que ela faz parte. So, salut, Aurore.
The mic.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Hello everyone. Thank you first very warmly for this invitation. Thank you André and all the Mix Brazil Festival team for making this happening. I want to thank as well the Embassy of France and particularly Mathieu Thibaudot, who was invited me with André for this event. So thank you very much. It's my first time here in Sao Paulo. I am very, very happy to be here and to discover the LGBTQ plus community of Sao Paulo. Also, I'm of course quite honored to be part of this special occasion, the 30th anniversary, so congratulations on this. So you already introduced myself. Of course I didn't understood everything, but that's what you did. I'm Aurore Quinzonzi. I'm a creative director juggling with different hats, let's put it this way. Hats such as commissioner, assistant of creation, and production. So these last few years, I've been mainly exploring the ever-evolving lens of new media art and immersive media, such as virtual reality, augmented reality, and extended realities. I live in France. I work in Paris, and I'm a queer black woman. For the moment we will spend together this afternoon, I wanted to go through my journey a bit, how I got to XR and new media, and to talk especially about two initiatives I've been part for these last few years, Fabula, this creative practice you introduced, and Octobre Numérique Fairmonde, a festival that is pretty new and that we've been organizing and curating since 2 years. And yeah, while doing this, I'm gonna go through my journey and present artists that I have encountered that have been very important to me somehow, and I'm gonna try to give you a sense of the ecosystem I'm evolving in within Fabula, and then I think we can just open the discussion with Anna and maybe respond to some questions, make it a bit more participative. So yeah, to start, because I think it can be interesting to have a bit of a perspective on how people's journey, to start there, how people got to places that are important to them, make sense to them. So I'll try to read your mind, tell you how I got to this very lively and ever-evolving zone between extended realities and new media. Rewinding just a little bit between 2014 and 2019, I was actually doing studies in graphic design in Paris, and like, to be honest, at the time I was much more interested in like typography and I don't know, like editorial design, like to any design would somehow give birth to an object, something physical. But then, as part of my curriculum, I did some internship with studios, creative studios, graphic design studios, and some of them would propose like this wide range of services. They would do typography, they would do brand design, editorial design. Like they would propose a global vision to brands, to clients, to institutions. They would propose this global universe. And this to me was already very interesting. I think it was like a clue on what I would be interested to buy like later on. This idea of world building, like creating a full universe. And gradually, like in the field of communication and graphic design, like you had all these profiles who started to work more and more with 3D, to add 3D softwares to their toolkit. And me, I was pretty much immersed in this, seeing graphic designer working with 3D lettering, proposing like images, 3D images from scratch, really. And those tools, those engines, like, started to be more and more accessible. So as creatives, we would just, like download the software, I don't know, like hack them and give them to each other, like so we could experiment with it. And that's pretty much how I got to real-time 3D. At some point, I was at my studies and they were pushing us to experiment with the tools, to question our practice and to question those tools. And yeah, like I discovered Unreal Engine and Unity. I don't know if those are engines that you know already. Maybe you can do like raise your hand if you know Unreal Engine or and Unity already, or a little nod. Yeah, no. So because this was like, to open the software was pretty much like a revelation to me. People who would use them, it was pretty much like autodidact. Unity is a video game engine developed by Unity Technologies since 2005. Its biggest rival is Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine developed by Epic Games. Epic Games are the ones who developed Fortnite. It's like this very popular video game that has been growing, having a huge community in these last few years. So this engine, you can use them to create 3-dimensional or 2-dimensional games, but you can also use them to create like interactive simulations and immersive experiences. So they have been like widely adopted by the industries outside video game, like architecture, movie, of course, but they also are very major in the XR industry, the development of XR industry. Like you will find specific toolkit in them, built-in, allowing creators to develop interactive and immersive experiences. So I discovered those tools and I was just like blown away by them. But what I needed also was a place where I could, I don't know, like question them. Of course, like have a better view, a wide range of like what was going on with those tools at that time. But yeah, also to meet people who would like question them politically, and that's pretty much at the time that I met Fabula. So you started to introduce Fabula. So it's a creative practice, engaging critically with contemporary art, the gaming medium, and extended reality, like as in XR. It's really a practice evolving at the crossroad of these fields. And again, yeah, just to like define a bit Fabula. And what struck me when I came across Fabula is the practice I met Fabien Soudy, is its political positioning. the roots of this entity. So Fabio Fabien Sufi, who created Fabula, he used to be an executive at large major video game companies such as Activision, Blizzard, Electronic Arts, Take-Two, Rockstar Game, between other things. And he has helped launch major community-based online games such as World of Warcraft or FIFA and GTA Online. And after exploring video games and online communities for like 20 years, he decided to devote himself to the arts and culture sector, and specifically to focus on giving a voice and a platform to artists, experimenting with immersive and interactive technologies, such as XR. Specifically, the idea was that in the end of artists, of thinkers, of researchers, immersive, interactive virtual worlds and experience could really help translate radical political thoughts into multi-sensory experiences, like then be portals somehow, moments of great like transformative power. When he founded Fabula, like he was very inspired by contemporary thinkers such as Donna Haraway. Like he actually helped the like co-produced the film of Fabrizio Terranova. And the idea was like to try to support experiences who could, for example, have us rethink relationship with non-human, who could highlight hidden ecologies, experiences who could help us live like this anthropocentric worldview. Just virtual realities could be sort of a practice ground for imagining desirable futures, very near futures, foreseeable futures, like not to be in these all totally science fiction, far away futures, but to think of, to have some tools, some platform to like, imagine some futures and maybe with them like open up outcomes in the actual world. So that's really like the roots of Fabula, like the seminal point of the practice. So now I can talk about like how we translate really. So Fabula has evolved through like very different forms and with different collaborators since 2016. At first, it was more of an online magazine, sort of an observatory of what was going on in XR from an artistic point of view. What Fabien Sufi did, like the founder, is that he really like tried to meet artists from all over the world and to have this panorama of, okay, what artists are starting to do with those tools that are getting more and more accessible. So in 2018, from this research came out a first publication in collaboration with the French magazine Fisheye, giving voice to international artists and collectives experimenting with the emerging medium, the emerging XR medium. So the magazine featured artists like John Raffman, Rosa Menkman, Julien Creuset, Mio Van Stenis, artists from France, from Germany, the US, the UK, even from Africa, like Dakar in particular. Artists who would see in the medium new ways of telling stories, of course, new aesthetic, new sensibilities to explore, but also would question the medium itself. So at that moment, this panorama of artist creator using XR was showing something quite new, quite emerging, which is alternative usage for the medium, was in parallel with very much used and invested in by big industry. And I think that's what I was trying to do first. It's really to say, okay, like there is all these industries who are investing in this medium and proposing very entertaining projects, let's put it this way. But there is also artists who are finding a new a new material who are trying to propose alternatives. So yeah, like you had an article about a VR piece by Rosa McMahon on the right called DCT Siphoning, the millionth 64th interval. That was conceived as a modern translation of the 1884 Edwin Abbott book Flatland, a book that is explaining some of the algorithm at work in digital image compression. You had another one by Chomabo, who's not there, but very experienced by Julien Creuset, about the cultivation and circulation of cores. Or View of Arbor by John Raffman, exploring the latent, View of Arbor is this one, exploring this latent cultural imaginary surrounding climate change and the idea of like this collective death drive. So I would say exploring some pretty dark imaginary related to science fiction. So that was the beginning of Fabula, like really a magazine, an observatory. Two artworks were featured in this magazine, became pieces that Fabula distributed for a period of time. That's an activity that we're doing much less nowadays, but that was very complementary in the idea of supporting a creation we believed in. It's of course very important to support the development of artworks, their production, but then the other part is really to help the pieces to reach the audience. Like today we focus more on organizing exhibition, and I will talk about this a bit later, and cultural events, but before we used to propose to artists to represent their work and try to accompany them the best we could, like take charge of the distribution. So this is a piece by Marshmallow as a Fist called Trigger. It's, I think, the first artist Fabula started to work with in this for representation. It's a collective that is known globally for their installation exploring hidden natural perspectives, perspectives that are inaccessible to the human senses, but that basically surround us. So one of their first pieces in the eyes of the animal is an artistic interpretation, an immersion into the sensory world of 4 common animal species: the mosquito, the butterfly, the frog, and the owl. So in VR, you step inside the bodies of these creatures and you see the forest through their eyes. I think we have a video for it. Maybe if we can...
You know that?
Fantastic. Really good. And the sound with it as well, and the thumping on your pack.
I think we can, yeah, it's the interesting thing about this piece is that, so of course you could like see it in a venue, but they could also show it in a forest. And they created those big headset, weird headset, and you would be in the middle of the forest, like having, of course, what's going on around, you know, like I don't know, like the smell, everything, and just having your VR experience just there in the middle of the forest, and that's just so clever. It's, of course, like it's demonstrating the idea, because Marshmallow is Office, it's really all about, I mean, a lot about intern ecologies, like, as I was saying, like showing things that are inaccessible to the human senses. It can feel a bit paradoxical, you know, like, okay, I'm gonna work on with all these technologies, tecnologies that can be, you know, like criticized in the like the way the resources it needs, etc. Yet they were really doing this bet on saying, with this technology, we can also do some, you know, how do you say it in English, like sensibiliser, to question about ecologies. So another work, Triager, again, was an immersive journey into the ecosystem of a giant sequoia tree. In the experience, you wear a VR headset and you follow the path of water particles. You're transported from the roots to the canopy of the tree. You are immersed in this like immersive flow of water and energy. I think there is a video as well, a short one again, just to. So these artworks have been widely exhibited and always came with very positive feedback from the public. They were quite popular, felt very accessible for people in like trying VR for the first time. For us, the main interest was that they were connecting these two subjects, technologies and nature. Like they would give answer to the question how extended realities can address ecological awareness. So that's what's the artist we have been working with for distribution and exhibition is Mélodie Mousset. First with Anna, a virtual reality experience designed in the form of an interactive and cooperative sandbox. In Anna, you evolve freely in a sandy, surreal island, and you have the ability to create hands, an infinite number of arms with hands of different sizes, of different size, skin color. And at some point, when you feel more and more comfortable in this environment, you just start creating this unexpected construction, like a sculpture of ants, and you participate in the building, in the development of the environment. Each time the work is presented in a venue, every arm created during the period of time of exhibition is conserved, is kept, and the world gets more and more full of these strange hand sculptures. Each visitor leaves a trace behind, and something. Each visitor adds something in the virtual environment, like somehow cooperates in its construction. And the piece is very appealing in this sense. Also because it's very easy to. For me, it's one of the, I don't know, like the most attractive VR piece I've seen. In the way it's constructed, like it's very easy, like once you know how to play with it. And then like you have this environment that always would be the same in every exhibition. And we have a little teaser as well for this one. what you see at the end of the video when all the ends just fall down, it's actually a feature that was added later on because it was really an ongoing project. It started in 2016, and in 2021 they were still doing like some adding some features. And so what you see at the end is a ritual. You're supposed to meet online or in the same venue in the world. You're supposed to connect to do like a different action, so the lightning will fall in the world and make all the ends fall down. Like when you start using video games, like you feel like you create your little world with rules, you know, like you create each component of the world. So of course there is this critique of like playing God a little bit. So to have a game where the artist actually invites visitor to co-create, it's kind of interfering with this idea in a very playful way. So in 2020, we decided to support the initiative DIMODA, conceived by artist and creative technologist Alfredo Salazar-Caro and William Robertson. DIMODA stands for Digital Museum of Digital Art. It's basically conceived as a virtual institution, releasing virtual exhibitions consisting of VR artworks. It was really only VR artwork at the time. That can be downloaded and online and accessed through a custom-made lobby. For each release, each global exhibition, you would have a specific virtual lobby designed in collaboration with an artist. Still ongoing today, DIMODA is really dedicated to commissioning, exhibiting, and preserving cutting-edge VR artworks. So far, they have released 4 exhibitions, artist-designed VR experiences, and yeah, like 7 of virtual exhibitions have been downloaded worldwide. They organized IRL, like in real-life events that have taken place in cities like New York, Miami, Chicago, Berlin, etc., etc. And in the 3.0, like the 3rd edition, titled New Talismans, the edition was exploring the experience and embodiment of computer witchcraft, to take the word of the collective, in the post-internet age. So, as they were saying, each artist for this edition used digital technology as magic tools to create their immersive environments. They were talking about ancient Chinese being awakened with 3D scans, magic circles enabled when casino opened, disembodied voices recite poetry deep in an ancient forest. So among others, it featured artworks by Iranian artist Moesh Nalayari called She Who Sees the Unknown. The artist actually used 3D modeling, 3D scanning, and 3D printing and storytelling as well, like to recreate monstrous queer figures of Middle Eastern origin. She was using like traditional myth, taking them and associating with them. Like she explored, those myths were exploring, of course, colonialism, patriarchism, and environmental degradation. She was basically like trying to do something she called refiguring, reinventing, like reappropriating myth and giving them like another perspective, like a feminist perspective. And we have a trailer for DIMODA.
Welcome. Brendan Johnson.
All my buckets have been things like that happen to lots of people. I had one step.
Paul Hurd.
After the pandemic, or during the pandemic, this is something, this hub for virtual exhibitions, it's something that we've seen a lot. A lot of institutions started to do that, institution collectives. But actually, the model they were doing that a bit before with this wish to also think about preservation, to create this virtual institution that would preserve the work of the artists, of the ecosystem around them. So it's something that we are really more used to, I think, now. But at that time, it was pretty new and cutting edge somehow. So in 2020, we launched the program Worlding with the Trouble, a commission and production program aiming at supporting artists practicing immersive and experimental world building. The idea was to propose our resources and expertise to international artists who have already initiated research in the field and who were looking for a production platform. What we wanted was to keep supporting the emergence of very distinctive, alternative political virtual worlds and interactive experiences. Again, because believing that the medium has this ability to intensify the experience, to really focus the attention and to translate alternative thinking as into like sensations. It was also a way to say okay, the entertainment industry is investing a lot in this. What we can do to make sure that there is alternative voices, marginalized voices that are giving space to. And so one of the pieces we supported was a piece by artist Rendon Johnson. So far we have supported 2 projects. Rendon Johnson is a black trans-American artist, he's a poet, he's a writer, he's a multimedia artist, who first approached us with a story that happened to him on a plane to New York. So the poem was about an encounter with a stranger in a plane, and they sat next to each other and just somehow knew they liked each other. They didn't need to talk so much, they just sit next to each other. It was a long plane where you're supposed to sleep. And so they had this intimacy moment, just sleeping next to each other, just having a gentle contact, a moment, with these other people. And then the plane landed, and they just separated without really further talk. And so this short story was about intimacy and trust, questioning how this arises, trust and intimacy. And it gave birth to a VR experience named May the Moon Meet Us Apart, May the Sun Meet Us Together, in which you encounter a series of fictional creatures from the ocean named beasts. And so in the experience, you find yourself in the middle of an ocean, without a body, just floating in this gentle, placid sea. And slowly you have those beasts, orby, gelatinous creatures who get close to you. They multiply, they start to rub against each other for a moment of time, and then they separate again. They just dissipate and they disappear. About the piece, Rendon says, the fluidity of the beast, of their meeting, of their nameless full-body emotions, speak directly to the necessary entangling I believe is crucial to live within our multivalent, ever-changing planet to maintain a presence and openness. With this piece, with the poem, Rendon investigates empathy and desire. It makes us rethink our relationship with our fellow human. But not only, it's also it really transported this to human and non-human relationship. How can we imagine some kind of post-human empathy, like an evolution that would be far away from the need of a lot of technical devices, like an evolution that would be more about the development of the senses. May the Moon is currently exhibited at the Julia Stoschek collection in Düsseldorf, if you ever pass there, until December 2023. And the second piece that we accompanied is named Of Hybrid and Strings. It's a piece by Lorraine Moffat. This piece is inspired by the Crystal World, science fiction book by Ballard. When Lorraine approached us, she had this very interesting concept where she wanted to experiment with VR. She wanted to put the viewer in the middle of the experience of a forest full of creatures, full of these hybrid flowers, a mix of creatures that you wouldn't see in the same forest. And facing you, you would have this creature made of flower who would just repeat your every movement. And then slowly, you're in the middle of the forest, and there is those white threads that are developing and that are connecting everything to each other. We can see a bit of those white threads. And the full forest get, linked to each other, and you're inside. And what she wanted was to experiment with the feeling of being entangled and of just slowing down with the forest. At some point, the full forest crystallized. And she was calling this deceleration machine, in the sense that for her, it was really a moment where the viewer could have this meditative moment, again, slowing down, and just maybe, meditate about hidden ecologies. You are in the middle of this forest, you're just slowing down, and it's quite paradoxical compared to all these, entertaining games and fast activity. Like video game engines are a lot used for entertainment, and the technology is going fast, the development is going fast. What she wanted was to, go to the opposite of that. And yeah, that's what the second piece we worked on. So in Fabula, I've been invited to curate different festivals, to be associative curator for different events, cultural events. But in 2021, we started to curate and to organize a festival in the south of France called Octobre Numérique Fairmonde, a festival that we said was dedicated to artist-made virtual worlds. Because at that time, when we started this festival, it was a lot about, in the media, it was a lot about metaverse. So the festival wanted to be at the crossroads of art and video games, and to try to explore alternative to dystopian vision and the so-called metaverse, and give platform to more inclusive, participative virtual spaces and experiences. So for a month long, we exhibited in emblematic places of the city of Arles. We had a program of performances, of workshops, and of conferences, and parties as well. And in 2021, for the first edition, we addressed the thematics of the metaverse and NFTs. Because they were omnipresent in the media. So we invited international experts and professionals to give keys to comprehend the related opportunities, possibilities, but also what were the of course, associated problematics and concern in terms of sustainability, of access, of inclusivity. One of the exhibition during the first edition represented the first solo show of artist Theotriantafilidis, who took over like this 17th century Gothic church in Arles. And the solo show was composed of 3 artworks. One of the pieces, titled Smoke Break, is this one, was a video projection of a recurrent character of the artist's work. This gender-ambiguous orc, inspired by medieval contraption and gaming culture, interrogating the figure of the monster. Here the avatar is seen in this, not so much in this image, but vulnerable, but at the same time dominant posture, just puffing virtual smoke, like you can't really see here, and he has this ambivalent attitude, like ranging from flirty to disinterested. And at the back of the church, you will find the same character again in an interactive piece called Pastoral, this time evolving in a virtual landscape, a field with golden sunlight. And the character feels strangely out of place in this setting, like it disrupts the usual representation of orc, very much related to battles and war in gaming and fantasy culture. We have a trailer for this one. During this edition, presented in collaboration with the magazine Climat, showed the multiple ways in which artists are using the virtual to fabricate new ways of being in the world. The exhibition juggled with the idea of like an uncertain future where speculative realism and hybrid ecology were mixed, again in a variety of formats: games, VR, projection, audio. Among the pieces exhibited, you had Bluebot from artist Julien Essienne. Bluebot depicts a matriarchal, femme-centric future in which female characters have created an artificial intelligence on which they depend to reproduce and which they use to entertain themselves. Like this technology takes the form of this childish blue doll, it's an emotionally intelligent robot, which reminds as much of like a regressive toy than a cyber-feminist avatar. Another piece we exhibited is Supreme, by a duo Xeno-Angel, consisting of Marija Abramovic and Sam Tweedle. So Supreme is an oniric universe onto a number of non-human creatures created by the duo. It explores symbiosis and synchronicity in a virtual environment which is both some kind of ecosystem and somehow an organism, a living organism. That's really what interested these two artists, to create this autonomous worlds using synthesis of 3D animation, AI, adapted from video game engine. The creatures of Supreme are trying to we have a trailer for this, I think.
Será
begin. Yeah. Another piece presented was Horizon by collective the Institute of Queer Ecology. Horizon is inspired by utopian communities. It's a downloadable participatory artwork taking the form of a social simulation game. The game, in which users become inhabitants of this remote wilderness island, invites players to participate in the creation of a digital commune. So the landscape of Horizon, I don't know if I have an image for this, for Horizon, operates as an open library within which users can contribute with original content and resources to order to consume. So each location within the game's environment houses a unique sector of content. As described by the collective, go to the forest to live or pick up information on wildlife or scavenging, visit the kitchen for recipes. Inhabitants are free to roam the island, explore the architecture of the commune, and share their own contributions. We have a teaser for this as well.
Welcome to Horizon, Habitat 1, Regenerative, Interconnected Zone of Nurture, an artwork by the Institute of Queer Ecology taking form as a digital commune. The multiplayer, 3D rendered virtual space considers queer geography in relation to the future of land use. The primary activity performed at Horizon is the sharing of knowledge as a political gesture, a communal project to imagine an interdependent future for mutual benefit.
This is how you upload your content for other people to consume.
This is done through the direct uploading of artwork, such as images, texts, videos, audio files, and other media into the networked game. In the forest, Lucy Gleek has shared a lithograph of vultures. At the power plant, Matthew Brown has uploaded a recipe for biofuel. In the kitchen, Allison Church offers us a cookbook based on Pennsylvania's native plants. Anyone is welcome to contribute to the growing archive by uploading their own work. On some occasions, the stage in Horizon becomes a space for live activations as we stream artist talks, performances, concerts, and workshops into the digital world.
Digital arts and art and technology. When I was younger, I felt like anytime I brought up queer topics in a digital space, I was completely shot down.
Yeah, I mean, actually, even Zach, I say that this is why your work has been so meaningful to me. Is because
I don't really have that space because I'm hip and art, but you want to stretch both your arms out and just be able to kind of wiggle those fingers and not hit anyone or anything, at least not unconsensually. And so this practice, which we'll guide you through in a moment, it has dual functions. It's really grounding to our nervous systems.
Querying the map.
So maybe we can go now. And so, just to finish, maybe before we start to discuss, second edition, the last one that just happened, as main theme collective play, with the wish to highlight the practices that question relationship within the virtual, possible sense of communities, new modes of participation, of reappropriation, something that we've seen here already, of empowerment in the public virtual space. So this last edition was presenting a few artwork by queer artists. This one is Xenomilithia, The Antifa Chronicles by Yossi Percy. The work Xenomilithia, the Antifa Chronicle, is a response to Donald Trump 2020's tweet, which read, "The United States of America will be designated Antifa as a terrorist organization." So Xenomilithia responds and look critically to this tweet by questioning this rise of extreme right movement, combining with the demonizing of anti-fascist movement. Ici Percy described the game as a fictional battle royale starring the xenoqueer militia. And these artworks were really inspired from the form of a basic shooting game where the player, adopt the role of this new Antifa queer terrorist alien fighting the threat of the right wing. The objective was to survive in coexistence. The players to face the enemy, fascism, which appears the true final bosses of our era, but still bosses that we do stand a chance of defeating. This is an installation view. Another game we presented in collaboration with the platform Extramental was actually a group of artwork by artist Velvet Aubry. Velvet Aubry describing herself as a young trans lesbian artist. So Velvet, she writes tiny games made with Bitsy. Bitsy is an engine very, very far away from all the Unity and Unreal Engine. It was created in 2016 by Adam Ledoux. As you can see, it's very much inspired from retro gaming. And with these tiny little games, Velvet infuses. She shares experiences of intimacy. She talks about her sexuality. Bitsy, the game engine, only allows you to do very, very simple games. It's quite an accessible interface, but you can only do simple interaction. You have those pop-up text, and as she explained, the text is very, very important in this. And you can't read too much. You have only a two sentence by block. So somehow she was explaining that it was also a lot about slowing down. As I was talking, talking about as well with Lorraine Moffat. It's not this fast game that you do very fast. It's more this game where you have to read. You have to really give attention to the reading. It's this little story. There is another game by Velvet. So in this one, you're in a bedroom basically, and what you have to do is to find the lost harness. So you open little shelves. You look under the bed to find this lost harness. There is another game that's called Roxy. It's the story of a rock who wants to be called Mister, or wants to be gendered as a man, not as an object. And it's funny because, through these very, very simple games, totally far away from, big production with this very detailed aesthetic. She's also talking about quite deep subjects, and the most important thing is that one of the things that I find amazing is that it's totally accessible online. The game that she's producing, you can find them online, and so it's a lot about accessibility. She's sharing something very intimate. Of course, somehow LGBTQ+ community can feel close to this and will be touched by this, but everyone can find those games online. And so that was some highlights of what happened with Fabula between 2016 and 2020. Maybe we can try to talk now. Yeah, but we can. Maybe those ones will come in the conversation, or maybe keep them for specific examples.
Well, we open for the audience. Congrats. It's wonderful, the connection between all the projects and your artistic point of view to connect them. It's really, when we talk about technology immersive projects, sometimes it's kind of technology for technology by technology, like so hyped to say that you can use headsets, but why? And about the narrative, why it's in VR, why it's games. And you explain a little bit here that it can be simple and deep, and state of meditation, that one of the experience you show. And here, just to remind, we are at Mix Festival, so here we are talking about different ways of existing, and the freedom to be anything. Here, like on a metaverse or XR, we can feel like that stuff about embodiment that everybody say about empathy all the time. Sometimes you can be there without thinking, just experimenting, yes. So how do you connect, and how do you invite these artists? How could you find these people?
So I must say that, yeah, like it was so again, Fabio Sfi, the founder of Fabula, it was really like all this first phase in 2016 when he started Fabula. At first it was really like this observatory, and so he met a lot of people. And then it was really like to keep finding those communities internationally and realizing that actually everyone was working together. Maybe that somehow it feels like yeah, there is a lot of artists doing this, but not so much. And you realize that it's always little communities, and that, yeah, like they all collaborating with each other, and because one is gonna have a specific talent, is gonna know something specifically well, and so it's gonna be known for that, and it's gonna work with someone else. So it's like you start to meet someone, you're gonna meet someone else, and also, yeah, it's really international. Me, I'm working from my apartment in Paris, but I am really working with people not all around the world. Like, it would be a lot to say that, but like really like in different capitals. Yeah.
Just to connect two things. About the theme, about queer culture, how to make it. Queer, as we know, maybe some people here can explain better, but it means like weird, something that's not normal, not common. And it was like not a good thing when someone called you like a weird or queer. Then the community just changed it, as many moments, as a reply for people, like, oh, you're not going to say that it's bad. We are like that, we are weird, queer, and here it's really interesting because it's another way of existing, like it's hybrid, it's not necessarily a human character. And just to introduce a little bit about the queer culture, in this way of designing characters and to make a script, to connect the projects for a creatorship. How do you think, what do you think about this diversity and representation in new immersive knowledge and communities?
Yeah, I think when I started to meet all this ecosystem, as you've seen, there were a lot of artists who might be queer or not, but there were this big focus on ecologies, eaten ecologies. And I know that me, like, because it's things that can be close to ecofeminism. You would have queer people, women talking about the subjects, and somehow it felt very close to their identity. They wouldn't like talk about the experience as queer people, but they would talk about this world they would wish to live in, that was that would be, of course, like related to environmental, you know, like wishes. I mean, and in this world, I would wish it was also about having something more inclusive. Like somehow it's everything is related. Those artists, a lot of artists that are using those engines. They're talking about their experience as queer artists. They're talking about the foreseeable future, a future that they would like to live in, and it's also a future that would be more inclusive for themselves. Yeah.
And create their own realities. Like that's what's better in art too. So before, is there anyone that wants to say something or to share? No. Yeah.
I was just wondering, in terms of technology, the choices you do when you commission a work or you choose an artist, if it's based on the technologies they work, or if you choose either like very new advanced technology or someone like you should, or how do you select the works you present or represent?
So yeah, like at the beginning of Fabula, it was very centered on VR, and of course we realized that VR is really it needs like sometimes big production. We had a lot of artists who would really experiment with it and be makers and like know how to propose a piece, being like, I don't know, like 3 collaborators to do this piece. But you can have something very, like almost luxury and not so accessible, even to distribute. Like you show it in a venue, you have to have mediators to accompany the people, etc., etc. So, and I think that for us, like at the beginning, the focus was really VR, but years after years, like meeting this community, we realized that actually it was not so much of the medium, the way that artists want to show, but what was coming up before, like the world building behind. And it's true that I finished on playing Beats, this retro game using Bitsy, because for me it was quite, I started being a student and being like, oh wow, those game engines are incredible, you can do so many things, you can do things that are so realistic. But then you know that it needs a lot of resources and it's not that accessible. So I think that step by step, yeah, we just wanted to wider the medium and the approach and really come back to the process and to the meaning of it and to go with things that are accessible. Some artists we're working with, like they're gonna do VR, but they're also gonna, like, one piece can also be in different formats. It can be VR, and you can also show it like as a video, an interactive video. So usually it's less and less, I would say, about the medium, but yeah, we let the artist free about this. Yeah.
We don't have a long time, just a few minutes, sorry. But one curiosity, which cities, countries did you, were you with the experience with the artist to hear from the audience, the impressions, the feedback? How was it?
So, for example, we did this festival in October, and we had this room. What we wanted to do is like this video game arcade, like to kind of get inspired by this, to have something very free and easy to access. But we realized that it's not always so easy to be facing those type of artworks. It needs mediation, really. Of course, like some younger audience are going to be very comfortable with the mediums, with the interactivity. It was funny because I spent just one day looking around how people would react to the things, and you would see yeah, like very young kids, like taking the gamepad, putting the headset right away, being very like, oh yeah, I'm gonna try this, I'm gonna try that. Like I know the things, and you would see other audience who would, look around, be less comfortable with, like trying the thing. So yeah, it's. I think there is very much different feedbacks, and there is different ways of accompanying the artworks depending on the audience. Like you really need to have the right mediation. Like people will be able to sometimes leave room for the visitors to try the piece by themselves, and sometimes the opposite, to be like bring them to try.
Is there anyone? Or, well, we can continue the talking after here. Do you want to say something before we finish?
A really big thank you for inviting me, and yeah, let's discuss after.
Congrats and thank you so much.
Thank you.